Is this recording? Hi. Not a great start. Hi, my name is Vanessa. I don't have any contact lenses in or my glasses on, so I have no idea if this is in focus or not. So if things start to go wrong with the focusing and the lighting and everything, please just bear with me. I'm looking at myself in the viewfinder and I just see colours moving. That is it. So things at the moment are a bit of a mess. The world is a bit interesting at the moment. What is going on is a rough time. It's very bad for people's mental health. But I want to tell you about reading and how reading can help your mental health. I'm going to be pretty open and honest. In October just gone, I had so many problems with depression and anxiety. It was the worst that it's ever been, and reading saved my life. My world felt like it was falling apart. I was worried about so many things. Everything was a catastrophe, but reading really helped to ground me, putting myself in someone else's position or putting myself in a different world. I found it really easy to sort of like switch off when I was reading books. So if you are really struggling at the moment, I would highly recommend reading. Please share with your loved ones who are struggling with anxiety and worry and stress. Please share with them some of your favourite recommendations. You know, loan your books out to people that are going through difficult periods of self-isolation and social distancing, as it may really help them in their current situation. With that being said, let's talk about some books that I would recommend that I really enjoyed. Easy reads, kept me engaged, didn't put me in a reading slump, and were not set in this world. Because quite honestly, who wants to be here right now? The worst thing you can do at this moment in time is put yourself in a reading slump. If you are self-isolating and you don't have anything else going on, if you're poorly, if you put yourself in a reading slump, you're going to struggle to find something to do. I'm going to make a quick recommendation for some things on Netflix. Sex Education, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. It is fantastic. I will honestly think anyone would enjoy it, male, female, old or young. Would highly recommend that. Parks and Recreations on Amazon. I've seen this multiple times. It's probably the only thing that I really do watch, if I'm honest. I watch it every day. It's such a feel-good thing. I would highly recommend it for fans of Friends or sitcoms. It is absolutely fantastic. Tuca and Birdie as well, I believe that's on Netflix. Highly recommend that for females. But my fiance really enjoyed it as well, but it's very heavily focused on like female problems and female issues, but it is a comedy and that's animated, but it's really good. So moving on to what everyone came here for, which is the books. These are mostly young adult fiction, but I find that they are the easiest to read. They're easier to read, a lot of them back to back for a short period of time if you're going to do some intense reading. So the first series I want to talk about is Alumni by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Anything by these two authors is absolutely fabulous. I highly recommend Amy Kaufman's These Broken Stars series, and anything else by Jay Kristoff is absolutely fantastic. They write really good. Their books never put me in a reading slump. Alumni is set in an alternative universe, quite far ahead in the future. They live on, humanity has colonised many planets, and it's sort of like an interplanetary war. Excuse the nails, by the way, because my nails are disgusting right now. There's an interplanetary war, sort of. There's advanced technologies, artificial intelligence, and our main characters work on a planet where they are invaded and they escape in 3 ships. And these 3 ships are trying to get through to a safe point where they can get backup and they can get help. And it's all about sort of like their journey through space, trying to evade the enemy. People on the ship start disappearing and dropping off, and it's pretty clear that there may be more than one enemy and it may be someone on the ship. So there seems to be like another threat. However, the thing that keeps this really interesting is the way that it's written. It's written as if it's like a series of documents that would be sort of like combined together for a legal case. So you have like interviews, you have emails, you have these like bits in between, or pictures, you've got diagrams, and then you have like these bits in between which are just sort of like, there's the sentence there, it's a bit strange, but it's actually like really engaging, it's really interactive, and I really enjoy this series. I've read this multiple times. This is one of the first books that my boyfriend read, fiance read. He's got dyslexia, so he finds it hard to read, but this was so engaging that it sort of like made him want to put the effort in and read it. So I highly recommend Alumni. Another author that I would highly recommend is Rick Riordan, who writes the Percy Jackson series, The House of Olympians, I think that's what it's called. Sorry, Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo. I was very late to Rick Riordan books. I started reading Percy Jackson when I was about 22, and I had never read anything by Rick Riordan before. I was a big fan of Harry Potter, and I read the Harry Potter books as they were coming out when I was younger. And for me, Harry Potter had always been like the standout series, that nothing had ever made me feel that way about something else before. And this, when I read this as an adult, I got the same sort of feeling like Harry Potter, where I was attached to the characters. I thought the plot was very interesting. I thought the magic was well developed, and it's very easy to read. It's not that long, it's only, what's the page numbers? It's only 350 pages, but it goes over really quick. I read 3 of these back to back at the Caravan, and they're so easy to pick up as well. Most charity shops have them in for like a couple of pence. If you're really struggling to find some reading material, I highly recommend these. Percy Jackson is a demigod. His father is a Greek god of, who is his father? I think it's Poseidon. I haven't actually read one of these in a while. And his mother is a human, and he goes to school for demigods. So that is like his, they're all sort of like half brothers and sisters, or half cousins or cousins in a way. And it goes very much on Greek mythology, but also sort of, there's plenty of people that, you know, are bad guys that Percy Jackson has to like fight off. But the main point of this is that the characters are so good, and in the same way that Harry, Hermione and Ron were like best friends and you rooted for their friendship, it's the same in here, where Percy and his friends, you are just following along with their adventures and their friendship at like this critical point in their life where they're young teenagers or older children, and it's just really interesting. Highly entertaining, so would recommend the Percy Jackson series. The next one is Eve of Man by Giovanna and Tom Fletcher. Tom Fletcher being the band member of McFly, who is a band that I really love. But that didn't really have an effect on the way that I perceived this book. I went into this totally unbiased, even though I really like these people anyway. I've recommended Eve of Man to a lot of people, and everybody's come back saying that it was a really good read and that they rated it 5 stars as well. It seems to be very highly received. The second one is coming out in a couple of months, and I can't wait to read it. I will be rereading this in anticipation of the second one coming out. It is a young adult adventure, really. Eve is the last young female to be born of her generation, so there's something happens where like only men are born and the only women now are very elderly, but Eve is born, she's the only female, so she's put in a tower for her own safety, and she's looked after by elderly women. I believe she meets a young god and they fall in love, and he wants to sort of free her from this tower and free her from what he sees as her being sort of like in a prison, whereas she thinks that, you know, she's living somewhere safe and she's sort of sheltered from the outside world. So even though it's an adventure in young love, it's just highly entertaining, and it's got so much detail and depth that I just totally flew through this and I read it in a day. And for Eve, a lot of it comes down to how much does she owe humanity, and how much does she owe herself to live the life that she wants, because still she's her own person and she needs to make her own decisions. She can't just be sort of like this prisoner where they're using her to save the human race. So it was really interesting, I really liked it, and I can't wait for number 2 to come out. The next series is the 3 Dark Crown series by Kendall Blake. I absolutely love this series. It's one of the best series that I've ever read. Book 1 wasn't actually a 5-star read, but every book since then has been. Would highly recommend this series. I think there's 4 books in this series, but they read so well and so quick. 3 Dark Crowns is the story of a kingdom where they have a queen ruler. However, the queen always gives birth to 3 daughters. At the point that these 3 daughters are born, she stops really becoming the queen. The clock starts really on which of these 3 triplet girls will be the next queen. So they grow up, the 3 of them together, and then once they reach childhood, they are separated. They go to live with 3 different families, and when they turn 16, they have a year to sort of kill each other. So they are expected to kill their sisters. However, each girl does inherit her own gift. In this generation, the three sisters have totally different gifts. One of them is a naturalist. She has the ability to command animals and take on an animal sidekick. It's not the word, but it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head right now. The other one is a poisoner. She's immune to poisons and has the ability to craft deadly poisons. And the other one is an elementist, and she has the ability to command the elements. Normally, there's always one of the sisters that stands out to be the strongest, and the other ones, their gifts don't really develop. But in this generation, all three of them have very powerful gifts, and they essentially struggle to kill off each other. But it definitely goes into like the depth of Game of Thrones, where every family and the relationships are very explored, all the world is well explored and well built. And for such a short fantasy novel, there is so much detail in this, and the plot twists are absolutely everything. I love an author that just goes there even when she thinks that it might make her unpopular, but these are absolutely great. The next series that I'm going to recommend is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is an extremely popular series, so I'll be very surprised if you haven't read it or at least heard of it. This is a fairy tale retelling of Cinderella, however it's done in a way that makes you totally forget or totally not draw on the idea of the original story. Cinder is a cyborg. She has a mechanical foot. She lives in the slums of a futuristic Beijing, but so far in the future that it doesn't draw on any inspiration of current Earth as it is. Earth as we know it is totally changed. Countries are gone and new political factions have grown in their place. Some of them have returned to the old-fashioned monarchy style. There's Prince Kai in this, who is sort of like the love interest. Humans live on Earth, and humans have also gone to the moon, and they've created the colony of Luna. However, humans that are still on Earth see them as totally different and don't like them, and there's a bit of like a hatred between them. Ironically, there is an underlying storyline of a deadly plague that's sweeping through Earth in this, and you know, might not be the right time for that for some people, but I highly recommend Cinder because it's just a fun read. There's also more in this. There's Scarlet, Cress and Winter. Scarlet draws on the inspiration from Little Red Riding Hood. Cress draws on the inspiration of Rapunzel, and then lastly you have this big beast Winter, which draws on the inspiration of Snow White. They are, in my opinion, fairy tale retellings that are done absolutely right, and they are all 5-star reads for me. I don't think I will ever part with that series because it is just so good and so entertaining. Another series that I would recommend, but I got rid of books 1, was Half Bad. I have here the Half Wild and the Half Lost books. Half Bad was sort of like this, but it had a red face on it. I read Half Bad a couple of months ago, and it was again very Harry Potter-esque, but it was actually really easy to read and I read it in 2 days. Half Bad follows the story of a boy who is half good witch and half bad witch. His dad is a very famous bad witch and his mum a semi-famous good witch. He's raised in the family of good witches who are known as white witches, and they treat him a little bit differently because he does have this half black side to him. As his powers grow and he develops in himself, the government start to become very worried about the influence of black witches, and again half white half black witches. They say black witches are the bad witches, hence the title Half Bad, because they think that he has the potential to be evil, living amongst good witches. In himself, this causes a lot of inner turmoil as he struggles to come to terms with who he is as a person and what his personality lies and the connection that he has with his parents. But it's just such a great adventure. It sounds really dark and very depressing, but it's not. I actually thought it was very fun. It was an easy read, and it helps me get out of a reading slump as well. So they are my current recommendations. I might make another video, like a part 2 of making some recommendations, because I've been looking at my Goodreads list and I have read over 350 books, and narrowing down the good ones is really hard. But I just wanted to pick some that were set in an alternative world that were easy to read, that were good, and that I didn't think would put anybody in a reading slump. They're also widely accessible as well, have been translated into multiple languages, and because a lot of them have been out for a while, they're likely to be on some sort of offer if you look. I just wanted to say as well that a lot of authors are making their books on the Kindle store free. Colleen Hoover, who is a new adult author, has made some of her books free for Kindle. So if you are struggling to leave the house, or if you're struggling to get a delivery of books, it's worth looking on the Kindle store for some books that have been made free for this period. And I'm very grateful to authors who are making that decision. But that is it for me today. I hope that everyone is staying safe and everyone is healthy. If you want any more recommendations, urgently let me know in the comments what type of genres you like, and I'll have a look through my Goodreads list to see if I think I can recommend you anything else. So I will see you in the next video. Bye!